Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Waters, along with Kayleigh McEnany, Jessica Tarlov, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. The Trump administration is bringing federal charges against the monster who slaughtered Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska and seeking the death penalty. This as we get horrific new video of the aftermath. And viewer warning, it's tough to watch. You can see the look of pure terror on Irina's face after the attack. She's cowering in fear and covering her face. No one steps in to help. And moments later, she collapses to the floor while her killer walks away, dripping in blood. But the liberal media isn't outraged by this heinous crime. They're outraged that you care. Politico says Ukrainian refugee killed in North Carolina gets dragged into political messaging war. Axios has the headline, Grisly Charlotte stabbing video fuels MAGA's crime message. And CNN says Republicans are pouncing.
Horrific new video of a Ukrainian refugee's murder caught on camera. It is absolutely horrific. Trump is now seizing on this to push his nationwide crackdown.
But President Trump showing no mercy to the killer.
She was slaughtered by a deranged monster who was roaming free after 14 prior arrests. We cannot allow a depraved criminal element of violent repeat offenders to continue spreading destruction and death throughout our country. We have to respond with force and strength. We have to be vicious just like they are. It's the only thing they understand.
All right, so pretty astounding the way the media is characterizing this, Greg.
Well, I mean, there was a time, and I know it was hard to believe, when murder wasn't a political issue, when we were kind of all against it, no matter what side you were on, we just kind of felt murder was bad. But then the left put that through the ideological meat grinder, where suddenly crime became a response to oppression, an act by the oppressed. And that meant the victim was a lesser problem in the left's hierarchy of problems. And so what you saw was the Dems became kind of known for being soft on crime, but the media stepped in to twist that narrative into a form of suicidal empathy. It's like you're supposed to care until it hurts. That meant that if you crossed the street to avoid a gang, that was your fault, not the gangs. You were a racist if you looked out for your own self-preservation. So it's the crime to the media. It isn't murder. It's that you notice the murder. And they will say, and you ask why, and they will say, well, obviously it's to score political points. That's what you're doing. So you have to think about that. Why is it scoring political points? Aren't you just saying that you're revealing your own guilt, that anytime somebody voices outrage, you're in danger of being exposed for your ambivalence towards crime and your pro-crime policies? Like if that wasn't an issue, you wouldn't care if people express their outrage because it wouldn't affect you. But you're going, oh my God, the spotlight is now on us. Now we have to defend all the terrible things we've done. And just a point that is very obvious, it's not like we cherry pick crimes. When you're a right winger, you've been talking about crime your entire life, right? Sometimes to a fault. Remember, we are genetically predisposed to self-defense. We talk about crime all the time. This is our wheelhouse. We just expect you to come out and be on our side when the most obvious, horrible things happen. It's kind of funny. If you express rage over blacks getting killed in Chicago, that's racist. If you express outrage over whites getting killed in Charlotte, that's also racist. So what does that tell you? Could it be that just expressing outrage over murder in general is the problem because you're exposing the Democrats and the media's ambivalence about protecting innocent people from the criminals that you empathize more with?
And, you know, yesterday, Dana, we were discussing this, and we had only seen the frozen image. And now you see the aftermath, and it's really tough.
So the video circulating online of the actual stabbing is genuinely horrifying for what is done to her, but also because it's even more chilling to see that nobody moved.
Yeah.
Nobody tried to help her. And so if conservatives are pouncing on this issue, is that good? Could conservatives pouncing save lives in the future? I mean, maybe, is that what it's going to take? We're going to have to pounce.
Yeah,
Fine.
nobody pounced there.
No, I'll pounce, okay? Nobody else is pouncing. It's especially wild when you consider the Ukrainian angle. I've been supportive of Ukrainian refugees from the start. So is most of the media, so is most of the left. Until now? Why now? Why all of a sudden is this a conservative talking point? You even have the suspect's mother asking for something to have been done, that the system failed her because she didn't know. She wants him put away. I think one of the most chilling things, as you saw the graphics today that we were using on Fox, if you have the 14 mugshots all up on one thing, and then the mayor says you can't arrest yourself out of this problem. That's like saying you can't diet your way out of losing weight. You can, and if it's really hard, throw in a GLP-1 and maybe you can get some more help. So that's what you could do here with these prosecutors. Gavin Newsom tried to take some of the fire off of his state and other blue states by saying, look, there's crime in red states too. Well, okay, ding dong. The point is that the mayors of the cities, the attorneys general, not the U.S. attorneys, but maybe under Biden, but the state prosecutors, the city prosecutors, that's what we have here in New York. It's definitely what they have in D.C. But Judge Jeanine Pirro is having to deal with the fact that not only did a lot of lawyers leave the office just out of protest because they don't want to fight crime or something, you have the D.C. attorney, Brian Schwab, responsible for a lot of this revolving door policy. And so I am happy to pounce if it's going to help save some lives in the future.
You know, we know that Democrats were, very behind these Ukrainian refugees, Jessica. We heard a lot about how we need to take them in. And we also hear a lot about how we need to protect women from the Democratic Party. Why don't you think you've heard more from Democrat politicians on this heinous crime?
This crime, which took place on August 22nd. We didn't have video footage until a couple days ago. Listening to the U.S. attorney there, it took a while to even bring the charges because federal charges, they said it could actually take up to months, and this was a fast tracking of it. So this only kind of swooped into the national consciousness a few days ago. I'm not saying that it was picked up with the same, veracity or verve as, for instance, what happened on the New York City subway with Jordan Neely and Daniel Penny et al. But I do think that the runway hasn't been as long for people to be paying attention. You have now obviously heard from all of the Democratic officials, certainly across North Carolina, and a few that have been asked on camera. But this seems like a really good opportunity to get behind the U.S. attorney there who is bringing these federal charges and to make a serious point about this guy and the direct link between a revolving door of people who are imprisoned over and over again. And then on top of it, and I'll repeat my point from yesterday, Dana already mentioned, his mother had wanted him involuntarily committed. He had beaten up his own sister. That you're going to have a lot of people who would typically not be enthusiastic about a policy of involuntary commitment getting behind it, because there is this anxiety that you could sit down on any form of public transport. You could be sitting in a park having lunch with a friend, and there is someone completely out of their mind, odds are that they've been through our system, that comes up behind you and sits next to you. Yep. The fact that nobody budged is unimaginable to me. And even if I understand it, it wasn't it didn't look like the movies once we finally saw it, but I'm sure she was making noise and she's holding the side of her face, and you see the woman who's sitting directly across from her turn her head towards her and then just turn it back. And we have become so programmed to just be in our phones, listening to whatever it is, or not wanting to deal with the fact that we are all living together on this planet, that I don't know if something could have been different for her. But that woman, for all intents and purposes, on top of what happened to her, had to die alone. Which
I do see acceptance. Like when you look at the people, they just accept that this stuff now happens and better just stay away. It's everybody. It's not just that. It's like in muggings or anything. People just, what this
is the world.
But
you would think differently of Charlotte, North Carolina.
When Dan Penny, went and did it, he got arrested.
Yes. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Well, yeah. We've heard sympathy from the left and from you, Jessica, and I know that's heartfelt and it's great, but, sympathy is important, but also we need accountability. And I think we need to ask ourselves, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? And to me, there's pretty simple answers. You mentioned the crazy person roaming around that commits random violence. Well, that crazy person usually has priors, and this crazy person had 14 priors. We went through the 14 mugshots. Dana mentioned them. Well, also behind those 14 mugshots is a story behind the 14th one, the magistrate judge. The magistrate judge who he went before for his final arrest let him out on cashless bail on a written promise. So this deranged individual gets out on a written promise on cashless bail and then goes on to murder a woman in her pizzeria outfit at 9:45 p.m. on the L train. Well, how do we fix that? Number one, you mentioned Democrats in North Carolina. Well, they sign on with the Republicans from North Carolina who want to remove this magistrate judge. Every single Republican has signed this congressional letter. Will the Democratic congressmen and women do that? What about Randy Fine? He's putting forward broad legislation to remove judges nationwide who do this kind of behavior. We need accountability. We need judges. And I hope your side of the aisle will partner with the Republicans, sign the letter. Let's get this lady out of here.
We'll
you want
see
me
what
to
happens.
sign? You always look at me like I'm supposed
right
to.
here. You can sign
were
for.
being addressed, so I turned my head, but I'm sure you'd sign it, Jessica. We just don't know about your colleagues in North Carolina.
My colleagues. I don't work for the party.
Ahead, Big John Fetterman calls out the morons in his party who are drinking the socialist Kool-Aid. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.